South Dakota is considering a proposal. And this is a ballot initiative. So this is the people asking for this. And this from Christina Peterson. Dateline, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. When South Dakotans turn up at the polls in November, they will be asked to decide whether to eliminate party labels next to most candidates' names on future ballots. The amendment to the state constitution would also establish open primary elections with the top 2 vote getters from any party advancing to the general election in most races. This is what California has done. It's this top 2 program. So if the top 2 people who got the most votes, say there's 10 people on the ticket, and among those 10 people, you're kind of splitting up the vote, but candidate A and candidate B got more votes than candidate C, D, E, F, G, H, whatever. Those 2, even if they're both Republicans or both Democrats, those 2 then go from the primary to the general election. And so in the general election, you could have a Democrat running against a Democrat, or a Republican running against a Republican, whatever. And I'm very ambivalent about this. I'm not sure that this is a step forward. And the idea of not having party affiliation, so you're looking at a list of names, and saying to yourself, okay, do I, who is this John Smith? Who is this, Betty Brown? Who is this, fill in the names. I mean, you would have to know all the characters. And there'll be names on there that might look familiar or seem familiar. The way that politics is played so dirty these days that if you got rid of the party label, I could see people running, I could see parties going out looking for people who have names that are highly recognizable and putting those people on the ballot. The Republicans might say, well, let's find a guy named Kennedy and put him on here. Most people will think it's a Democrat and they'll vote for him. Let's find a guy named Roosevelt. It's like last name Roosevelt. It's just, everybody does not have the opportunity to carefully investigate every single candidate, as much as I wish we did. And as much as I think we should. I would like to know when I'm voting for a candidate, if they have a political affiliation, what that political affiliation is. On the other hand, there are some positions like judgeships that should be absolutely untainted by politics. Whereas we see, for example, in Wisconsin in the last election, where Joanne Kloppenberg, I believe was her name, she was, good progressive running for judge, but she was running against a hardcore right-wing Scott Walker person. And so, outside groups came in and poured millions of dollars into the election. And guess what? Scott Walker's person won. And I suspect wouldn't have won had there been a party next to it. So if we're going to have partisan judges, which frankly we shouldn't have, but if we're going to have them, let's at least identify their party. But this idea of dropping all parties from all affiliations, I would like to know, am I accidentally voting for a Republican here? It's not something I want to do. So anyhow, we'll see where that goes. And then John Kasich has just come right out and spoken the truth. I live here in the District of the Goddess, in the District of Columbia, and therefore I have no representation in Congress. Eleanor Holmes Norton can sit there on my behalf. She can even speak on my behalf. She can't vote. And I have no senators. And John Kasich is saying, well, when it really gets down to it, you want to be honest, it's because they know that it's just more votes for the Democratic Party.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
In other words, Kasich is saying because Washington, D.C. is a largely Democratic city, if we got 2 senators, we'd have 2 more Democrats in the Senate. I think that's a good thing.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.